Good morning. Good morning. How's everyone today? Welcome in. Just getting rolling on the treadmill. So, my husband gets up and goes to the gym every morning. And he said to me as he was leaving, he said, "Have fun on the walk and talk." And he said, "I'm going to go do the pain and gain." I thought that was pretty funny. Pain and gain at the gym. That's the idea, right? Hopefully. Welcome, welcome. All right. So I have updated in the in my auction tab, there's that document that's called choosing basic shipping settings. I realized yesterday someone brought up, they pointed out I had all the numbering wrong. And I don't know how I managed to do that because I had one printed out that was all correct. But anyway, I updated it and made it cuter. So if you look in the auction tab, let me pin it so it's obvious. So choosing basic shipping settings guide. I've updated that and put the numbering all correct and added a few things. So if you have that screenshotted, get rid of the one you have and get this new one that's in purple and black. And that is your guide for how to choose the basic shipping settings that you need. And I apologize for having the wrong one in there. Life happens. Welcome in, welcome in. Read the show notes. And yeah, just look at all the things in my auction tab that are the documents that I share every show that I do for seller chats. These are just guides to help you, um, figure out how to do whatnot. So all the different guides that I put together are in that auction tab. Just go in and screenshot all the pictures of the different documents. Yesterday, we talked about, did I get that new one pulled in here? Let me see if I did. We talked about pricing and I didn't get that one pulled in. Let me get pulled in. So that is the new one about pricing. And that's what we talked about yesterday. If you missed that show and want to preview it, just go to my YouTube channel and go to live shows and you'll see the show from yesterday. And I did just add that document. It's called Selling Formats and Pricing. And that's what we talked about yesterday. So if you missed that, again, my YouTube channel, Draz on Whatnot, is available to watch past shows. So that's in the show notes, Draz on Whatnot. All right. So they did an update over the last couple of days. You may have noticed on your mobile device that the pathway to get to Seller Hub, I'm kind of confused about why they did it, but the pathway to get to Seller Hub is a little bit different. So if you're on your mobile device, my iPad's not updated yet. I have an older iPad, but anyway, the pathway is slightly different. There's a little icon in the center. At least this is on iPhone. I don't know what it looks like on Android. But in the bottom center of your screen are 4 little squares. You tap that, then you have to tap the 3 bars in the upper right corner to get to Seller Hub. So if you're confused and trying to find that, I don't know, they rerouted some things. I think because they had to add some additional things in there. If you look, it's just, I haven't explored it completely. So anyway, yeah. All right, let me get back into the chat here. let's see. I am very new, just a buyer right now, but will you keep those pages up after the show? If I try to screenshot now, the auction tab covers part of it. So here's how you do it. So you tap, so like this is the one I have pinned, tap it again, and then it brings it up like this. And then you should be able to screenshot the whole thing. Let me know if that doesn't work. Because you should be able to do it that way and be able to see the whole thing. Yeah. All right, good. Yeah, and then just do that on all the different ones in the auction tab, and you'll have all those different documents that, just kind of save them in your photos somewhere, or, screenshot them and put them in I guess you could try and print them out. I don't know how good the quality would be. I wish we had a better way to share, documents, but they don't let us do attachments in the email system, which I understand because that bogs everything down. Um, but if you shoot me a message, if there's a specific one that you want, I'm willing to share a PDF by sending it to your email. So you would have to message me in whatnot with your email address, and I can share PDFs of those if you want to print them out. So yeah, just don't bog me down with too many requests, because it's easier for me to just share them and have you guys screenshot them. But if you really want something, or if you have bad vision or something, I understand the need to maybe print it and have it bigger. Trust me, I know, because I have to wear reading glasses nowadays just to see anything. And when I craft and sew, I have to put on even more powerful ones. Otherwise, I can't even see to thread my sewing machine or thread a needle. It's pretty bad. So, all right. Good morning. How are you, Queenie? How's life this morning? All right. So, I just wanted to mention that update they did, and you just kind of have to play with it and see. But that main thing is that now it's in the bottom of your screen. Instead of the plus, it's now this little 4 squares. Hit that and then go up to the right corner and hit the 3 bars. I think it's the right corner, maybe it's the left corner. Anyway, the 3 bars, wherever they're at, then it takes you to Seller Hub. And from there, they've added a button now to schedule a show or list an item. So it's different than having that little plus sign. So anyway, they just did that. Yeah, you should be able to. So just minimize the show, so that you can still hear it, but then you should be able to do that. And it depends on if your app updated or not yet. Because some people have automatic updates on, some people don't. So if you haven't updated your app in the last couple of days, it might not look the way that I'm talking. So just check and see. But anyway, whether it did or not, it has there. You'll see it soon if you don't see it already. It's just a little bit different looking, and they've added some more buttons. And instead of that plus sign in the middle of the bottom of your screen, it's 4 squares that you tap, and then you can get into all the other settings that you normally do. I think they just had to add another layer because they were adding some other stuff. And so they had to kind of reformat how you get to different places. So, all right. So yours hasn't changed yet. Okay. Yeah, and it hasn't changed on my iPad here either yet, because this iPad's older and doesn't update as fast. And then the other phone I use is the Android, and it's signed in under my husband, who mods for us. And then I'm using my regular iPhone as the camera, so I can't use that because I'm using it as the camera. So yes, you can absolutely promote your shows. That's what these shows are for, is for you guys to network with each other. So definitely, ask for follows, share your shows, follow each other, bookmark each other's shows. It does help. It's not going to necessarily equate to people coming to your shows and buying from you. What it does do is give you a boost. So when you get people to follow you and bookmark your shows, it shows, the numbers show in the algorithm that, hey, this person has, X followers and X bookmarks on their shows. And so it shows there's more interest and helps boost you. So please do that for each other when you're in these shows. Network together, follow each other, bookmark each other's shows, help each other out in that way. And then, of course, if you meet someone like minded, or, who lives close, or you just hit it off with them, maybe they become one of your big followers, big advocates, even possibly buyers, because you kind of networked together. So that happens. Let it happen organically. So Scrap Happy is a crafter. Well, I could have guessed that from your name. Selling craft supplies and albums. Awesome. And yeah, let's give you a follow. So Scrap Happy, I'm already following you. And let's check your profile. And you've got a show 17th, Craft with Me. So let's bookmark that show. And I would recommend that you have more shows scheduled than just one, so that when you have that show, people can bookmark additional shows. Okay. And yeah, if you might do one sooner, that's fine. What I would recommend is the one that you already have scheduled, that you have some bookmarks on, change that one to a sooner date so you get the bookmarks that are already there. So just go in and edit the show and change the date and the time. But have additional shows scheduled so that people have something else to bookmark when they come to your show. Okay. If you look at my top 10 tips list, that's my number one tip, is to have a lot of shows scheduled. Even if you have to move them around a little bit, or something comes up and you can't do it that day or time, you just change the show to a different date and time. You reschedule it, but you never cancel it. You just reschedule it for when it's going to work, and then you retain all of your bookmarks. So make sure you do that. So number one tip, always have a lot of shows scheduled. So Mimi Pop Deals is having her first men's and women's clothing shows this Saturday, starting at 5. Men's to triple X, women's XL and double X, all low starts. All right, so Mimi Pop Deals. Let's get you followed. Let's view your profile. So very first show. And now, so you put that on your profile. Welcome to our first show. Well, once you've had your first show, that's not going to apply anymore. So make sure you fix that. And I would bullet this out instead of having a big paragraph. People won't read it. It's nice that you're telling everybody what you're going to do, but put it in a format that's more readable. And then also, I would recommend putting a backdrop behind your little picture that kind of shows what you're going to be selling. And let me just see your shows. So you've got 2 shows scheduled. That's good, better than one. You've got them on the same day, 2 hours apart. Are you really going to do it that way? I'm just asking because that would be pretty hard to have the first show and then end it and do a second show. You might as well do all one big long show. Okay, just letting you know that would probably be better. Yeah, it's hard to bookmark people's shows without accidentally tapping it and going into the show and leaving the one you're in. So trust me. I wish they would make that little bookmark just tiny bit more sensitive or something so that when you press, it's doing that instead of accidentally taking you into people's shows. All right, so Mimi Pop deals. I don't know. That's just my suggestion. I get that you're doing two different things, but if the show's going well, that you have it for, you're just going to want to extend it. And then, because you can always have the same show and do both and just extend it and go from selling the men's stuff into the women's stuff. And it doesn't make sense to me to end one show and then start a different show. So I would just, continue it and then get some other shows on your schedule for them to bookmark later, or maybe do the women's plus size on a different day so that you have, because when you have your very first show, honestly, you really should stay live for about 3 hours so that people can start finding you, and you can always rerun through your inventory, a couple of times, because the people who come in at first are not going to necessarily be the same people that are in your show, later on. So that's kind of how first shows work, because you have to get found. So those are just some suggestions. But awesome. Excited for you. Hope it goes well. And I can give you some. I don't do clothing. So what is the unlock thing? I didn't do anything. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Let's see. Schedule after. Yeah, okay, Scrap Happy. Sounds good. The unlock thing. Oh, that's I'm sorry, I now know what it is. All right, so I participate in the rewards program. And so if you look at the top of your screen, the little Drasby that's up there, it looks, see that little Drasby that's next to the little live symbol. So one of the ways that you can earn rewards or coupons in my shows is that if you watch at least, I think, 3 shows, you unlock the first level and it automatically gives you coupons. So if you go tap the little B, you'll see that you now have coupons available to use towards purchases in my shows. So the rewards program is what that is. It's popping up saying that you earned the first reward level just by watching shows. So that's what it is. Let's see. Has any info come out yet about the increased postal rates effective 7/13? No, stay home to shop. I have not heard anything. But I will definitely ask. It's funny because it seems like they are I'm going to screenshot so that I'll remember to ask. They are always a little bit behind on that, which is fine with me. I'd rather have them not increase the rates on whatnot until they figure it out, right? Oh, about 7% higher. Ugh. Bummer. Yeah. So, yeah, look for a possibility of, instead of 921, it's going to go up to whatever 7% higher is. So, it always depends, because sometimes they change the rate for just some of the other classes of mail and not necessarily the flat rates. So we'll see. All right. Welcome in, everybody. Thanks for being here. And I did update that document called Choosing Basic Shipping Settings. I have it pinned. So if you had that screenshotted before, make sure you get a new screenshot and delete the old one, because I had the numbering all wrong on there. There were a bunch of typos. Somehow I managed to save the older version when I was doing that show on here. So I've updated it. It's prettier. It's purple. So make sure you screenshot that. So again, you just tap the picture So here's the document pin. Just tap the picture of it, tap it again to make it big, and then you can screenshot it. And that's that little guide for how to choose your shipping settings based on what you sell. So, and just another little, kind of shout out about that. There are a lot of sellers giving shipping advice, which is great because everybody needs help with shipping. Just be cautious about the advice you get on shipping to make sure that the advice you're getting is from someone, if they aren't giving you overall instructions, if they're just saying do shipping this way, make sure it makes sense for what you sell. So if you're in a seller chat and they're saying you should do it this way, and they sell something so vastly different than you sell, it's not going to necessarily work for you. So that's why I put together this basic shipping setting guide, because it's based on what you sell. And then keep in mind that if you get to a point where you're selling a really high volume, like you sell a ton of stuff, then all of that kind of goes out the window and you can choose what you want to do. And basically, you just choose how much of people shipping you do or don't want to pay, because you're selling at such a high volume that it really doesn't matter as much. And you can usually just use the flat rate shipping settings, and buyer pays max $9.21 or even less, depending on what you're willing to pick up. And then you do all of your shipping with that setting, but then on the back end, you just change it to whatever it needs to be based on what they ordered. So, just figure it out. Oh, you liked the YouTube video on pricing that we did yesterday. So you watched it on YouTube after the fact, stay home. So yeah, we talked about pricing and selling formats yesterday. So both. Okay, awesome. So if you missed that one, I've also put that document in the auction tab. So it's the one that is called Selling Formats and Pricing. Let me pin that one. And that's the one that Whatnot put this one together. That's officially a Whatnot document. And we just talked about all the different strategies that you can use to decide how to price things, to decide how you want to sell it. Because you really have a lot of options. You don't just have to do a basic auction. You can do stuff in your Buy It Now. You can do flash sales. You can, put things in your auction, but ask for pre-bids. You can run items out of your Buy It Now as an auction. I mean, there's just so many different things you can do. And it change, and really you need to think it through, because depending on what you sell, there are different strategies that will work better for different items. So just really read through all that information and think hard and watch other sellers and figure out what's going to work best for what you sell. So yes, this is on YouTube. So if you look at my show notes, my YouTube channel is Draz on Whatnot. If you go subscribe to my YouTube and then go to the lives on my YouTube channel, all of my shows are multicast. So we're live on YouTube and Whatnot at the same time right now. And so you can go watch the past lives. So there you go. Yep. And we did that because they took away the ability to watch past shows on Whatnot, because their bandwidth it was just taking too much bandwidth to save everybody's past shows. And also it wasn't highly utilized as far as in general. But those of us who did use it it was pretty invaluable. And so it was kind of a bummer that they took it down. Um, and so that kind of forced us to, it was probably a good thing because it forced us to get out on social media more. And so, yeah, so we're on YouTube. I also multicast on Facebook. I would highly recommend doing what you can to multicast to one or the other or both. It really does make a difference. It brings in additional people to Whatnot. And I've gotten people coming in that are subscribing through my link, which gives you a little bit of a credit, which is nice. And not a ton yet because I'm not huge, but it is starting to make a difference and is helping because they automatically come through your link and then they are a follower and you get a little bit of a credit for them using your link. Does it cost to do that? No. So it's automatically set up through Whatnot. You link Whatnot to your Facebook and YouTube accounts, and then you can multicast. You do have to have a certain number of subscribers in order to multicast. However, on YouTube, you have to have at least 50 subscribers. On Facebook, it's a lot higher. I don't know what the number is because I already had a pretty healthy Facebook following, so I didn't look it up, but you do have to have a certain number of subscribers before you can multicast. Let's see. Stay Home says the YouTube viewers are a highly engaged audience. Yes, 5 times more active than general. Agreed. And Dilly says, hey, I have a show coming up on Friday at 4:30 and would appreciate you all stopping in and bookmarking. Store is almost fully loaded. Awesome. So Dilly, let's everybody give Dilly a follow. Let's go view your profile. And so that show is scheduled tomorrow at 2:30. And it is under Women's Contemporary. And so Dilly, is this your very first show? It looks, oh no, you've sold a few before. So you need to have more shows scheduled. So you only have one scheduled, right? Get more on there because how are people going to bookmark and come back again if you don't have more shows for them to bookmark? So get some more shows scheduled so that people have something to bookmark for after tomorrow's show. Does that make sense? So, and I would add something in your backdrop here that kind of shows what you sell. And let me just see. I just am going to click off into your show. So you said you had it fully loaded. So I'm wanting to see that because that's exciting. So yes, she's got 66 items preloaded in her auction tab. That's awesome. And you also have a few buy it now. I would try and get a few more in there, things that people can buy outside of the auction. And yeah, that's awesome. So very good. I would also tap that document in my auction tab that's pinned right now about pricing and selling formats. Kind of study that and make sure because you're doing low starts. I noticed. If that's working for you, great. If you're losing money to try and boost sales, I would price things a little bit higher and have a few lower starts, but I think it helps you in the long run to not always have super low starts because you don't make any money. If you're getting enough of an audience and people are bidding things up, then that's fine. But if they're not, price a little bit higher so that you're actually making something. All right. Let's see. Wonder if I should try to make a channel using my username. Yeah, if you do make YouTube channels and social media channels after you're already on Whatnot, definitely use your same username if you can. because you want to have it be the same across all platforms. You're welcome, Dilly. All right. Let me see if I missed any comments here. Scrap Happy, I have one follower. Yeah, and that's fine, but you can start advertising it in your show notes and asking for people to follow your YouTube. And pretty soon you'll be able to, get it up. Because it doesn't take too long of just asking people to subscribe to your YouTube channel before you can do that. SLS, yes, you can change your username. However, if you're not already selling, change it before you start selling. If you are already selling, then they make you have that you can't have any outstanding orders. So it's kind of hard to change your username if you're in the process of selling because you're always, processing orders. So, if you're going to start selling, change it before. You don't lose followers because it's the same account. So it's just that you change your name. So if you already are selling or already have, people recognizing who you are. Okay, so then definitely change it before you start selling. And then that way it's not as, people aren't going to be like, who's this? Because you changed it before. Okay. Am I talking about YouTube or whatnot? SLS. Let me see what her comment was. Oh, yeah, I think she was talking about changing her name on whatnot. And yeah. So yeah, change it before you start selling. And then, then it won't be weird for your buyers because you were already that name before they started buying from you. So yeah, and it's funny because a lot of people come onto Whatnot not realizing later down the road that they want to start selling. And so, it is what it is. And a lot of people just default to whatever Whatnot suggests, which is hilarious sometimes, the combinations people's usernames are. My husband and I get a kick out of it. Anyway, so yeah, if you think you're going to sell it all, change your username before to what you want to use and try and have something that makes sense with what you're going to sell. Although, don't be too specific because you may think I'm going to sell this. And then you start selling that and it's not working and you change to something completely different. And if your username was nuts and bolts and you're not going to sell nuts and bolts, it's going to be weird. So, you can sort of be on key with that, but at the same time, don't be too specific if you think it might change. So, yeah. All right. And I picked something that I just already used, and even though I'm in a specific category, I like my username. It's short, it's simple. People can say it one of two ways, and I don't care which way they say it, but it works. So you just decide what's going to work for you. Can you have more than one account on YouTube? Yeah. So if you have a personal one that you don't want to be tied to your business, then just set up a different one for your business. And you just have to have a different email. Yeah. Let's see. Make it easy to spell your username correctly for any platform. Yeah, agree. So I agree with that. And that's why I think it's funny that a lot of people just default to whatever Whatnot suggests. And then it's like some weird mash of your first name and last name with some numbers on it or something. And then you're like, oh, I really don't want to use that to sell. So maybe try and come up with something, from the get-go that is going to make sense. All right. SLS says we have a business, which we have a website. on TikTok and Facebook, but when I started my account, didn't know if I would be a seller. Yeah. And so, just change it to what you already have, if that makes sense and works out there. Just change it so that it's seamless across all platforms. I think that's important, is just having, the same name on every platform so people can find you, on every social media and every platform. Then you're going to be found no matter what, if people are looking, right? And you'll be recognized. Oh, that's so and so. She's also on, YouTube and Instagram and Facebook. And oh, and there she is on Whatnot. You know what I mean? So it's just the same. It's your business. So it should be the same name everywhere you go to find someone. Hey, Jerry So Sassy, how are you today? And Jennifer Gar, welcome, welcome. So we're talking about names, usernames. Briefly, we were talking about that because we were talking about how you kind of just pick something when you come in. But I came in as a seller from the beginning. I signed up and with the intent to sell and got approved. And so it was different for me than maybe for some people, because a lot of people come on just as a buyer. And then, after however much time, they're like, this is awesome, I want to sell. And so you definitely would want to change your username if what you used in the beginning is just some generic use of your name or so, whatever. So, yeah. Good morning, Casey K. Let's see, Hey C Cove. I'm going to say it that way. I think that works. Welcome, welcome. All right, everybody read the show notes. Yeah, you could delete and make new. However, if you have a decent following, but you said you only have one, so then it probably doesn't really matter, right? You can just delete that one and make a new one. Yeah, that's fine. Or you can maybe just change the name. I don't know how that works on YouTube. Good morning, Olive Prond. Yeah, don't lose your one follower. That could be tragic. So, all right. So let's talk about my top 10 tips just briefly. Let me pin that and kind of tell you the history of this. So I just pinned out. If you haven't screenshotted that before, tap it again, take a screenshot. The history of that is when I first started doing seller chats, I was just making note of all the things that people asked about, and was making note of all the things that I was constantly repeating myself on. And I'm like, I need a list. So this is my top 10 tips of things you need to be doing. It doesn't talk about shipping. It doesn't go into detail about everything. It just is the top 10 things you should be doing consistently on Whatnot for good, consistent growth. Is it going to guarantee anything? No, because you constantly have to reassess what you're doing, how you're doing it, what you're selling. What you're selling is important, because if you're selling something that is not is not in demand or not on trend, or, nobody wants, then all of this can just go away because nobody's going to buy. You do have to be honest about what you have to sell. Is it what people want? Also, sometimes, I'll be honest with you, some people are just really going to struggle on this platform if you don't have the right mix of your personality, your ability to keep up with the technology, your ability to do a reasonably fast-paced show, your voice, your ability to be a nice person who provides good customer service, all those things. I can't guarantee that following all of this, if any of those other things are not, going to work, then it's not going to work. So be be brutally honest with yourself, and it's okay if it isn't a good fit. Not everybody is cut out to be able to go live and sell on a platform. Now, is there room for everybody who wants to try? Heck yeah. And does it mean that you can't do it if you don't, if you're willing to work hard at it and make the changes you need to make it work? Absolutely, it can work. But you can't change some things, or if you're not willing to put in the work and the effort to learn it and learn how to do it, then it's not going to work, because it is a lot of hard work. So my husband and I are doing this full time. We're working harder and more hours at this than we have at anything else, but we have two people doing it. But we put in a lot of hours. The trade-off is we get to work from home. We get to be our own boss. We get to have the flexibility of doing it whenever we want to do it. We don't have to answer to someone else. It's our business, but it's a lot of hard work. And if you want to hit premier status, meaning what that means is you're selling about 50,000, well, you're selling at least $50,000 in every 3 month category, or 3 months reporting period. Okay. So that would mean that over the course of a year, your max sales are at $200,000, right? That's hard work. And most people who hit premier status are not doing it alone. They're hiring employees. Okay. So don't beat yourself up if you can't go there. We're kind of on that cusp of, we could put in the extra effort and get premier status, but what does that mean? It means we probably have to hire some people to do some things, some of our shipping, helping us with some things, and I'm okay where I'm at right now. We'll see. I'm trying to convince some of my kids to kind of get on the ship, but we'll see. So it just depends on what your goals are, how much you can put into it. There are people who are premier status who are doing it basically alone, but trust me, the hours they are putting in are extraordinary. So there's a lot of work involved. Can you show pinning a listing on the iPad so we can watch the steps? Yeah, absolutely. So here's the shop, right? Right now it's displaying, and it rotates what it's displaying. You just click the little shop like that. Okay. And if I want to pin this attracting and keeping buyers right there, see the little push pin symbol, like putting it on the bulletin board? Push pin, you just tap that, and now you can see that it's changed the document that is pinned to that one. It's that simple. Okay. And you can also pin something out of the buy it now versus the auction tab. All right, let's see. Scrap Happy says I listed stuff and it wasn't showing my inventory on one of my shows. So Scrap Happy, that probably is because you listed it and didn't realize you just listed it in the marketplace, but didn't actually attach it to the show. If you want the items to be directly listed in the show, open the show and add them inside the show. And that makes it a little easier. Otherwise, you need to find them in your inventory and assign them to the show you want them to be in. So make sure you know how to use listings. When you create a listing, you tell it whether you want it to be an auction item, a buy it now item. If you put it as an auction item, you need to tell it what show you want it to be in. If you want it to be a buy it now item, it can either be reserved only for shows, or it can be available 24/7, depending on if you have reserve for live toggled on or not. Okay. So that's my guess, is that you added the listing, but when you just add a listing from your main profile, it defaults to just being a marketplace listing as a buy it now item. So if you want it to be in your auction, you've got to tell it whether it's an auction item, a buy it now item, and whether it is reserved for live or not. So look at your listing, go through all the different things in the listing, and you'll figure that out. You are welcome. All right. Any other things that I can answer or show you on the iPad? I'm still trying to learn how, when I'm live in my show, how to list at the bottom what I'm selling. Let's see. Well, when you're in your live show, when you, if you want to pin the item before you run it, that's how you do it. Just pin it. If you want to just run an item, you can just start running it and people now see what's running. So it just depends on whether you want them to see it for a second before you run it, or if you just want to pull it and run it. So either way works, depending on what you want to do. And you are so welcome. All right. Let me just, let me pin that top 10 tips list again. And let's just go over it really briefly. So, number 1 tip, schedule shows. Have a lot of shows scheduled. That's how you get found, because people start looking for what's coming up. People will bookmark your show when they're in your show, they'll bookmark your future shows if they like what they see. So, you've got to have shows on your schedule for them to bookmark, right? And so that's why that's the number 1 tip, schedule shows. If you look at my profile, and I'm a little bit outside the ordinary because I do seller chats. So I do a lot of seller chats. But if you look at my regular shows, not including the walk and talks, just scroll and see how many I have. Can you guys see my? I guess you can't really see. Well, I'm just scrolling through. I mean, I'm still scrolling, still scrolling, still scrolling. These are my shows that are scheduled. Okay, I'm scheduled out through 8/13. Okay, you've got to have shows on your schedule. Hey, so happy crafting. How are you today? So get shows so people can bookmark them so that they have something, to look forward to on your schedule. All right. And then once you have a bunch of shows scheduled, you're going to get bookmarks for more, more and more bookmarks. And you'll have shows that are scheduled further out that have a lot of bookmarks when you finally get to that date and have that show coming up, right? So you're doing good today. So happy. That's good. So it's funny because Utah is one of those states where the weather is just like wonky. So on Monday, I had to turn the air conditioning on because it got up to like 82 in my house, right? The very next day, it dropped and I had to turn the air conditioning off and turn the heat on. And today, the sun is shining, but it's really cold. So that's how Utah is. So crazy weather, fun times in Utah. All right. So the next thing on my tips sheet is to let me pull it up again, is to go live as soon as you can. That's how you get traction and start getting somewhere on here is to start doing live shows. Honestly, the marketplace is meh. It's not anything compared to other platforms where you list items. You can sell stuff off your marketplace, but usually it's tied to the fact that someone came to a live show and saw it listed on your marketplace and bought it. Okay. So it's all about going live. It's all about going live. And then the marketplace, that's the 24/7 marketplace, is kind of secondary to everything else. Okay. So do live shows if you want to grow. What's your goal? I tell everybody, please have a goal. Have in mind what it is you're wanting to do. Can it change? Heck yeah. Maybe your goal right now is just go live. Maybe your goal is I need to make X amount of dollars this month because that's what I need to supplement my income. Have a goal, do what you need to do to achieve that goal, and then reassess, make a new goal when it makes sense. Okay? Have a goal. All right. Yeah, I am very candid. I, this is not for everybody, but can you make it work? Yes, if you're willing to put in the time. Ask So Happy Crafting how much time she spent. She probably is afraid to add up the hours. I don't keep track of my time really. I just do what I have to do to make it work for what I want to do. Okay. And the beauty of it, again, like I said, is the flexibility. It's your own business. You answer to you. And my husband answers to me. So, because I do most of the work. So he just helps. And he's fine with that. He loves it. Now, he actually is awesome in this business. I could not do it without him. I mean, I could, but I have an amazing sounding board, an amazing, like, someone to, you know, help me brainstorm what we're going to do. And he's a lot of fun. I'm kind of boring, honestly. So he's more fun in the shows. He tells stupid jokes and sings and makes it fun and lively. I'm more about sell, 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 and I have a harder time. Some people have that amazing ability to be hilarious and still sell at the same time. I can't do that. My mind goes blank. So yeah. So if you have someone that works with you that, or if you're one of those amazing people, like there's a couple of sellers on here that just it blows my mind. They're like Robin Williams reincarnated, because they're hilarious, but they can keep on task and sell. And I'm like, if only, you know. So like one of them is Hodge Place. I mean, the woman is hilarious and she's just selling, selling, selling. I don't, and she even is like Debbie Downer a lot of the times, but she's hilarious doing Debbie Downer. you know, I mean, the woman's amazing. So, yeah, there's some people like that, and, the thing that's beautiful about it though is they're just being themselves. Be yourself, be your best self, figure out ways to be engaging, keep your audience. And if you're not the one, get someone else that can help you do it that is like me. Because it's so much better with Bert there because we have, we kind of feed off each other and have fun. So, yeah. All right. Number 3, list. All right. So let's talk about listing. Okay. When you're new, this is hugely important. Once you've built up your business and you're established and people can trust you and that they know that you deliver the goods, listing is less important. But when you're new, you've got to have something for people to see what you're going to sell. If you're going live all the time, it's probably less important too. But it just depends on how much you go live. But if you only go live a couple times a week. You've got to have something for people to see what you're going to sell, or they're just not going to come. Once you get established and people know what you have and they love your shows, that's less important. But I still think you should have something somewhere so people can kind of get an idea of what you sell. Okay. And yes, you've got to have fun. If you're boring, your chat will be bored and leave. I agree. And that's a challenge for a lot of people. It's a challenge for me. It's a challenge for me to keep things lively. And that's why it's so awesome that Bert's more fun. So, you know, I try. I try. Most of the time I keep it rolling. All right. So Happy Crafting says if you're new, people will buy to support, but you have to have something there for them to buy. Exactly. And so I think it's important when you're new to have some things pre-listed. Have quality listings in your show, in your auction, and in your buy it now. And I tell people, load your buy it now. It shows people what you have, and you'll make sales out of your buy it now during your lives, especially if you sell in categories where you have a mix. Like a lot of the vintage sellers, you have, maybe you're doing a themed show, but you have just a bunch of cute little stuff in your buy it now. You'll sell things. It depends on your category. You can do a lot more in some categories, but load your buy it now, you'll get sales. So your first sale was a buy it now item. There you go. Okay. All right. So listings, get some listings in there. Number 4, stay live. Stay live. There's a lot of new sellers that make this huge mistake of going live, staying on 15, 20 minutes and going, well, nobody showed up. I'm done. And then they keep doing that. And then after about 5 shows, they're like, well, this sucks. This app sucks. My life sucks. I'm out of here. Right? Because you never stayed on long enough to get found. The magic hour is 1 hour, and then you've got to stay live for probably 2 or 3 to get anywhere. Trust me, that is the case. Every once in a while, someone comes on that already has a huge following, already was here as a buyer, and lots of people knowing him will come support him. But for most people, that's not true. And if you're one of those rare magical moments where the Whatnot seller account raids into you on your first show with 500 people, that doesn't happen for most people. So we just got raided by Heart Up Living. Thank you for the raid. Everybody give Heart Up Living a follow. Tell us what you're up to and when your next show is. Everyone bookmark your next show, Heart Up Living. Thank you so much. All right. So number 5, get feedback. Before you ever go live, do some rehearsal shows to learn how to use the app, and then do some practice shows where you invite through a link some people to come watch and interact with you in that practice show so that you can make sure you have good lighting, good sound, good internet connection. People can see what you're selling. They can give you feedback on how to position things, yada, yada, yada. All that stuff. That's super important. Don't have your first show without doing that so that you make sure of all those things, because you don't want to go live not realizing that nobody can hear you, nobody can see you, or all the other things, and then people just leave and you never realize why it was such a bomb. So have some practice shows, invite some friends, invite your family, whatever, have them come in from a different location and make sure all that stuff's good. Okay. Number 6, this is huge. Run items. You can ask people what they want to see in general, But that doesn't mean you don't run it until they ask. You just start running. Run items, which also means don't run something at a price you're not willing to sell it at, especially when you're new. When you're new, don't make the mistake of only doing $1 or $2 auctions if you're not willing to sell it for $1 or $2. And I mean, by willing, I mean not just willing. Maybe it is something you're okay with making 30 cents on, but are you going to be excited about it? Not me. So don't run items at a price you're not willing to sell it at. It's okay to have a fair price. And if you're passionate about what you have and you have good items and all the other things are in place, you're going to make some sales at the good price, you know? And then when you're more established, if you want to do lower starts, because lower starts do bring, more excitement, then you can. But you don't do low starts when you're new and you're just trying. If you think that that is the strategy for people coming in because you're doing low starts, they might come in and rape you and buy a bunch of stuff for $1, but it's not going to get you anywhere, right? So please price appropriately and please run your items. Don't just sit there and say, what do you want to see? Do you want me to run this? Run the items. All right. Number 7 is always raid. Raiding is huge. It really does help you start networking and getting noticed, because every time you raid, all the people in that show see your name and they're like, oh, wow, they raided. Who is this? What do they sell? Da 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 da. It really does make a difference. I don't know that you necessarily get a huge number of followers every time you raid, but it's slowly helping you build and get your name out there. So always raid. So Don says the practice show was so important. I just invited my husband and kids. Yeah, and it was beneficial. So you're in a safe environment. You don't have anyone in there that you don't know, that you didn't invite, and they can just give you all that feedback. I think it does help maybe to have someone who's at least familiar with whatnot to come in, maybe a friend you've made, or, invite a seller that you've made friends with, so that they can give you some specific feedback about the app. But if you don't have that, it's not, super essential. Just at least some feedback, right? Lone Pine says, I watch new sellers crumble when people don't immediately buy and then the vultures move in. Yeah, exactly. So just price fairly, have good listings, have your things pre-listed for your first couple of shows, because then it's smooth. You have it listed, you run it. And then it's priced accordingly. People can see the price up front, no surprise. And if it's going really well and you've got a big audience, maybe you can start something at a little bit lower price because you can be somewhat assured that it will get bid up, but don't price things for $1 or $2 if you're not willing to sell it for that amount. All right. Raid trains, mixed feelings about raid trains. I think there's too many of them. But I would definitely strategically try to participate in some raid trains when you're new, because it helps you get more followers and found, because you're now in a position where people who followed someone else or followed all the other people on the raid train are kind of part of that and coming in and finding you. But be strategic about it and probably try to participate in the ones that, there's a lot of raid trains that are kind of for new sellers and they're mixed with bigger sellers. It's kind of like a big fish, little fish. In fact, there was a raid train called that, but kind of that idea. And how do you find them? You network. You look for them. You go out and type in raid train and in the For You page and find raid trains that make sense and reach out to the organizer whose name is either on the thumbnail in the show notes, or they're the one who are moderating, or they're shouted out in the show. You can find them. All right. Also wait for people to answer before you lower the price. I've lost money that way. Let's see. I'm not sure what you mean by that. See, the main thing I realized was that I needed to add quantities. I realized I couldn't use a listing over. Oh yeah, you definitely need quantities. So make sure you put numbers of units in ones that you want to use over and over. Let's see. Yes, it is hard to raise your prices later. So if you're known for being low price from the beginning and then you try to raise them later, it's going to affect it's going to affect your trajectory. So start at regular, normal, fair prices. And then as you build your audience, you can lower them because you know and trust that people will bid. Okay. It just depends on what you sell. And I think a lot of people kind of feel like that is what Whatnot is, and it really isn't. I mean, if you go into categories where there are items that are in demand, which is what Whatnot's basis is in like the trading cards and sports cards and, Funko Pop collectibles, even though people might do dollar starts, it's because they already built that up and they know people will bid. And it's okay if you every once in a while someone gets lucky because everyone was distracted and gets something for $1 or $2. Lucky them. That's what's kind of fun about it. But then, as a general rule, your pricing, what you're selling things for, is a good price, or you're getting really good pricing. And honestly, if you become celebrity status, people will come and buy from you just to buy from you. Not everyone's going to get to that point, and I don't think it's realistic to assume that in certain categories. But in some categories, that's the case. There are some sellers that their product is themselves. People just want to be with them and be in their shows and interacting in the chat. And they have, regular people in their chat that are in every show making comments, having fun, and beating each other up verbally, if you know what I mean. There's shows like that. And that's their vibe. Yeah, Corey gets people like that just hang out, and they're kind of annoying, but they make the chat lively. And you do want that, and depending on what category you sell in, that works. I sell in fabric and crafts. That doesn't really work for us much, we occasionally get someone coming in who actually is mad because my husband sometimes talks over me, and they make a comment about that and they're miffed because they didn't hear what I said or something. That's what I get. I can't even imagine what they would. I was like, go check out shows where, they're like constantly yelling and shouting and the profanity is loose as a goose. And, we're nothing. We're mild. We're like milk toast shows compared to a lot of those, so there's room though for every type. Jenny says, I see people who buy out craft stores or buy pallets of crafting items. How do you find this? Wow. There is not a short answer to that, but honestly, it's all about the hunt. It's all about the hunt. You just have to network and hunt, and you have some good experiences and you have some bad experiences, and sometimes you lose a little bit of money. So, yeah, fabric and crafting is usually G rated. Yeah, ask So Happy Crafting. She's one of those people. I am too, to a lesser extent. So she goes and buys out quilt shops and buys in bulk. I do some of that. Mine's on a pretty little bit lower scale. Um, I do buy pallets occasionally, but I'm really, really picky and very careful. Um, and the losses that I've taken are more because, um, well, like I've bought storage units, and sometimes the storage unit doesn't always contain as much of what you hoped it had. And so then you have to try and get rid of the other crap you didn't want. But yes, do not agree. So Happy Crafting, do not buy pallets over the internet until you have, you know, you're going to get scammed. Yep, you're going to get scammed. So be very careful. And I always tell people the sources that are the best when you're new are what's closest to you. So start with what's close. What's close? What you already have in your house. Start with what you already have. If you're on this app, you have crap. Let's be honest, right? If you're here, you already have crap to sell. You know, you're either buying too much crap or you already have it. Let's all raise our hand and be honest that that's the truth, right? So start with that first. And then what's next closest to you? Your mom's crap, your neighbor's crap. I'm sorry, I'm using crap. Your neighbor's amazing items, your mom's amazing items that you can sell, right? So go first. Yeah, I'm just bullying all of you, right? I'm telling you all have a bunch of crap. So start with what's close and then what's in your community. Facebook Marketplace is probably the best tool I've found. Can you get scammed on Facebook Marketplace? Yes. Ignore the ones that are obvious ads. Go for the ones that you can tell it's a real person who listed it. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. Don't fall for it. If it sounds too good to be true, it is too good to be true. Okay? But what's closest is best. Why? Because it's close. You don't have to pay shipping. You don't have to drive 1,000 miles to go get it. You don't have to hope that it was legit. You can go see it. You can go get it. You can touch it. You can feel it, etc., etc. What's close is best. Okay? Do that first. And then you'll start networking. So I have, people that I have sourced from that instead of listing it on anything, they call me and I come buy it. So I have sources. I have quilters who every time they're done with a quilt and they don't want the rest of the fabric, they call me and I come buy it. Okay? Because there's a lot of quilters like that have hordes and hordes and hordes of fabric, and they're wealthy and they just love to quilt. And when they're done, they just want it gone, and they would rather it get used, and it's more convenient for me to just come buy it. So network and find those people that have stuff like that. Advertise by listing items and then mentioning that you buy. When you go out sourcing, tell everyone what you do, and people will come to you to buy their crap. Trust me, they will. Okay? So if you network, and I mean, it's hard work, you guys. You're going to have to bust your butt. If you want to do this and you want to grow, you're going to have to put in the work. Okay? Yes, people will prioritize your interest as a buyer if you offer to purchase all. So that always works, because especially if it's someone who has like an estate they're trying to clear off. If you come in and say, I'll take all of this, they're like sold most of the time. Give them a reasonable offer and they're going to be like sold, because they just want to get rid of it all, because it's costing them money, and time to have to sit on it and try and sell it piece by piece. So do a lot of that. Okay. And there is no magic answer, honestly, for that, because sourcing is hard work and a lot of networking. If you're starting out slow and you're close to a Goodwill bin store and you're selling in a category that works for, the Goodwill bins can be your source. It just depends on what you sell and if you have a good bin store close. Okay. Sometimes there are auction houses close to you that will do lots. There are liquidation places that will do lots. Choose the ones that are local that you can go see in person, that you can go and pick it up in person. Whatnot does now have a pallet category. That there are sellers on here who are selling pallets. I haven't bought anything through there because there's not a lot in my category, but they have been screened by Whatnot and are approved to sell in that category. So probably, I'm not going to guarantee it, but probably that will work good for you in some categories. So go to the main page and down at the bottom, go to categories and make sure you're following that category if you want to try and buy pallets through Whatnot. But yes, definitely check their reviews. And but that is a new category here on Whatnot where you can buy pallets. There's also some sellers, some reputable sellers who sell case lots. So you can go onto their show and buy a whole case of something that you can then flip and resale. I will be doing a few of those shows, but not at the volume as some of those sellers. So one of them is Warriors Enterprise. They have an almost daily show where they're selling case lots of items. And it's just a little bit of everything. They have, I don't know, they have home goods, they have clothing, they have, I'm trying to think, what have I seen on there? Every once in a while I stop in just to see what they have in case something, I don't know. You have to spend a lot of time watching though, because it's random. They just pull a case, open it, sell it. So you have to spend some time watching to see if something comes up that you want to buy. So, but there are sellers like that. So search it out and search out by using case lot or liquidation or pallet or, but be careful. Look at their reviews, make sure they're reputable. And that is one of the gated categories on Whatnot. You're not supposed to be selling pallets or selling off of pallets in bulk unless you're approved as a seller in that category. So, there's hopefully some credibility to the fact that they're selling in that category. All right. Did I miss any questions or anything? Let me know. Let's see. Yeah, definitely do more live shopping, because it really does, help you to kind of hone in on what you can find in your area. You may, have come onto Whatnot thinking, I'm going to sell X, and then you just can't find good stuff in that category where you live. And so maybe you need to change categories. Switch it up, do what works. But I do think it's important to have passion about what you sell. Let's see. So not supposed to sell pallets. Right. Like you have to be approved to sell entire pallets or entire caseloads. There's a category for pallet sales. So you have to be approved to sell in that category. There's a couple of categories that are gated. Luxury handbags is one of them. You cannot go on and sell luxury handbags unless you're approved because there's so much fraud in that, in that category because so many, half of China is producing Gucci and Louis Vuitton handbags and people are selling fakes out the wazoo. And so they gate that category to make sure that you are authenticating everything you sell. The shoes are the same way, certain shoes. So you have to get permission to sell in that category so that you're not on here selling fakes. Does that make sense? Yeah, card breaks. You have to have permission to sell card breaks. That's where they do the different sports cards and they open or don't open the packs. I don't even understand it. So yeah, there's certain categories that you have to have permission to sell in. Other than those, you can sell whatever you want. So even if you came on here with the intent to sell, let's say you came on here with the intent to sell, vintage items, but you're just not finding a good foothold in that and you can't source it good, switch it up if you want to. So, because it really does. I happen to live in a state where crafting and sewing is like huge. So it works really good for me because every other house in my community, somebody quilts. And there's yard sales and estate sales and people getting rid of their hoard every other day. And so I can source fabric and craft items in my state easily. So what is it that you can source well where you live and close to you? So yeah, so Happy Crafting, not so much. She has to travel more to get a lot of her inventory, but I've traveled too. It just depends on what you find. So, but the best sources really are what's closest to you so that you can easily source it, you can see it. And yeah. So what Scrap Happy says, I like Whatnot because I can sell from home but reach all over. Exactly. Exactly. And one of the things that's really fun when I go and buy stuff from people's estates, often they're clearing out because they're older. They can't do it as much. And they're always like, I always tell them what I do and where it goes and what some of the people do with it. And it makes them happy to a little bit happier about having to get rid of it. I'm like, I sell all over the country and people are doing this and that and the other. And I tell them what they make and what they're doing with it. And it makes their heart happy that the items they collected are going to people who love it. And they can tell I'm passionate about it, because I talk about all my customers and what some of them do. And, because I have people who make, quilts for veterans. I have people who make all the little blankets for the ICU or for the NICU at the hospitals. I have customers who are constantly making bags that they give out to, nursing homes and lap quilts and, whatever. If you're in a category where people buy things to do good things with it, talk about it. If you're in a category where you're helping people be able to source things at a much lower cost, talk about it. Network, network, network in every way, in every aspect. So, one of the new exciting things coming up is that Whatnot is going to have a merch a merchandise store on Whatnot where you'll be able to go and buy Whatnot logoed things, t-shirts, caps, hats. I don't know what else they're going to offer. Lots of stuff. And so I would highly recommend when that's available soon that you get some merch and you advertise everywhere you go by what you're wearing. You've got a sticker on your car, whatever. So I'm going to start doing that. I have a little bit more than the average person because I have some of the stuff they've given us as part of the community support team. And I have a few things like I have Whatnot fabric, but you're not allowed to sell it. But I make things out of it that I can wear or take or give away, yeah. So yeah, and you can do business cards, but you can't actually officially without permission use logos. So, but yeah, they'll have things like that, I'm guessing. So they haven't really been specific about the specific items, but specific about specific. Oh my gosh. So yeah. All right. I need to get going. I've been yakking. Is the Whatnot logo updating? Yes. So they announced that in that last Whatnot seller show they did it like last week, that they're updating the logo. It's really not hugely different. It's just more kind of linear, I guess. And so, yeah, they are doing that. So rebranding, just the changing the logos up a little bit different, and you'll start seeing that as they roll it out. Does it look like Warner Brothers? Oh, I don't know. I haven't really looked at it. Hard to say. Yeah, it's kind of more modern looking. Yeah, I would say that too. Because that honestly, the Whatnot logo is a little bit cartoony looking, and I think the new look is a little bit more streamlined and kind of more professional, modern looking. And the kind of cartoony fit what they started out with, because their whole start was like the Funko Pops and all of that. So yeah, I think it's a good change because it kind of notches it up a little bit on the look. So I was laughing because someone was bringing up that the new trend right now are those little, and I can't even think of what they're called now. There are these little figurines that are coming out of stores or out of a brand from China, and it's like something Fubu, or someone tell me what it is. Yeah, Labubu. Oh my gosh. And I was telling everybody, you hit that last night. So I guess the Labubu shows are showing up like crazy now. And I was laughing and telling everyone that's how China is going to take over the world, right? Because everyone's going to buy these creepy toys and and it's going to be all over your house and they're spying on you. No, don't repeat that rumor. It's not a rumor. I'm just joking. Oh, so yes, I hit a 450 stuffed animal. I paid $66 for. Oh my gosh. Yeah, see, I'm going to stay out of those shows. They are kind of cute, but I'm like, I don't need any of that in my house. So they're kind of like creepy clown. You know how people are afraid of clowns? I'm like, that's what that looks like to me. It looks like Chucky all over the house. I'm like, no thanks. So I'll pass. Hard pass on those for me. So I'll let everybody else get Labubus all over their house and get spied on. They look like constipated Teletubbies. That's true, they do. Ah, that's funny. Anyway, I'm going to China next month. So maybe I would be smart to pick up a few that I can sell, but they'll leave my house fast, right? So get you a Labubu. I'll have to see how much luggage space I have. Maybe I can get mini ones. I wonder if they have mini ones. So, because I'm the kind of person that if there's anything cute and they miniaturize it, then I'm on board because I like everything mini. so so we'll see. I'm also going through um, Seoul, Korea. So I'll be in the airport in Seoul. So I'm excited to kind of go shopping in the airport in Korea because Korea has the coolest stuff. They have way cool stuff. And I have a couple of friends on Whatnot that are totally into the K-pop scene. And so I'll be picking up a few things for them. So, but you also have to be careful about how much you bring back because then you don't want your luggage searched and then they tariff you hundreds of dollars because of what you bought. So, anyway, but I'm excited. So, I'm going to be gone for 2.5 weeks taking my daughter to China. She was born in China, and this is her opportunity to go and see where she was born. And, we're going to do all the normal touristy stuff. This will be my third trip to China. So we're really excited to take her and let her see, where she was born. But I'm also kind of nervous, honestly, because it's like, I don't know, it's like inevitably there's some crisis that happens. And am I going to get, you know, at the very minimum, have some travel interruptions and things like that. So hopefully, everybody pray that nothing worldwide crisis happens. Oh my God. So, all right. You are so welcome, Scrap Happy. Hope it helps. And yeah, just again, if you want to rewatch shows, just go subscribe to my YouTube channel. And on the lives, you can rewatch shows. And I try to go in and clean it up a little bit so that it's mostly, applicable shows, but you can tell by the title. So the title of my show is Walk and Talk. So you'll see the ones that are the seller chats, easily be able to find those again. All right, let me go see who we can raid into. And while I'm doing that, if there's anything you missed in the auction tab that you needed to screenshot, just make sure you get screenshots of all those lists and documents. And I updated that one about shipping because there were some typos in there that I screwed up on. Thanks, you too. So let's go see who we can raid into. Who is live? I try to raid into someone else doing a community show if there's one live. If not, we will find someone in crafts or fabric and give them some love. So let's see. Let's go out to make sure I'm on the right type of thing here. Anyone doing a community show that looks like it would be helpful. I don't know either of those people. Oh, that's a raid train. New sellers on fire raid train. Oh, let's do that because it's a raid train for new sellers. So then you can kind of get a feel for how something like that works. So we're going to raid into Mad Mama's Bargains, who is part of a new sellers on fire raid train. How does that sound, you guys? All right, here we go. Mad, let me make sure I type this right. Mad Mama. That's quite the name, Mad Mama. Don't get in her way. Here we go. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.